Ms. Peters, it came to my attention that members of this committee submitted written questions the last time you appeared, and I don't think we've gotten responses back. Are you aware of that?
I am, Senator.
Can we count on getting responses to those questions soon?
We are working diligently to get those responses back to you.
What's been the long delay?
You know, it's been a long process. We always want to get these answers right, and there's a review process going back and forth between the Federal Bureau of Prisons and the department to ensure that our answers are consistent with department
Can we get a date certain, like maybe a month from today, October 13th?
Senator, I would love a date certain. Unfortunately, I cannot provide that to you.
No, and I assume you won't provide a date certain to any new questions we have then either, right?
That's correct, Senator.
All right, you mentioned in your opening statement you talked to stakeholders and something called justice-involved individuals. What's a justice-involved individual?
Someone who has been involved in the criminal justice system.
So a criminal.
Criminal or victims. We had a listening session
Okay.
where victims also discussed the impact of the
Is there a
criminal
reason we
justice
don't just call
system
them
on-
criminals and victims?
Pardon me?
Is there a reason we don't just use plain English and call them criminals and victims?
Justice-involved individuals is a term that I use regularly.
Okay. You said that you'd been to 20 prisons in the last 12 months. That's about once every 2.5 weeks. On average, how many hours do you spend in a correctional facility when you visit it?
Probably 6 or more hours when I'm visiting.
Okay, so close to a full working day when you're there.
Yes.
How many of those hours do you spend on average with your correctional officers?
Well, when I am there, I spend about an hour with my executive team that's on the ground locally, and then the rest of it is walking the halls of the institution. And I try to stop and talk to every correctional officer.
Any organized sit-down with correctional officers?
We had an organized sit-down with our national union, but it's more walking and talking and meeting with them one-on-one at their post. I prefer that over pulling them off their post to have a conversation.
Got it. Have you visited the Forest City, Arkansas institution?
No, I have not.
Would you like to join me on a visit there?
I'd be happy to join you on a visit.
Because, you know, the incoming union chief who's taking over from Shane Fauci, Brandy White, is an officer at Forest City. I wish we would have had a second panel today with them. We had one last year, but I guess the chairman didn't want to have a second panel with the union members today. I want to touch this augmentee issue. Last year, we passed a law that required your employees to spend 90% of their time on their primary responsibility. If you're a correctional officer, 90% on corrections. If you're an HVAC technician, 90% on HVAC. What is the status today of the 90% requirement? Are you meeting that requirement?
We are working hard to meet that requirement.
That sounds like a no.
And so we are continuing to battle our recruitment and retention
80%?
issues. I don't have,
70%?
yeah, I don't have an overall number for you, Senator.
How can you not have an overall number of what your core officers are doing? Not research associates, not administrative assistants, but these, like this, they perform the mission of your organization, and you don't know how much time they're spending?
Senator, it changes every day and is different at every
There's got to
single
be an average,
institution.
though.
I don't have an average, Senator.
I mean, hitters go over 4 in a day, but they can still hit 350 in the season. There's got to be an average. I'm disappointed you don't have an average. This is not, it's not like some political hot potato. I'm not asking you about men who claim to be women to go into women's prisons. This is like a core responsibility of your organization. Let's turn to why you're not meeting that staffing numbers. You said in your written testimony that you're at 88% funded positions. How many correctional officer positions did the president request and Congress authorize and fund for 2023?
Senator, I don't have that number in front of me, but we can certainly get back to you.
20,446. Do you know what it was last year?
No, Senator.
20,446. How many correctional officers are currently employed?
We, like you just mentioned, the percentage is 88% of the
No,
funded
correctional
numbers.
officers, not total slots, correctional officers. How many do you have?
I don't have that number in front of me, but I can get it and get back to you, Senator.
Ms. Peters, again, these are your primary employees. These are the meat eaters, not the leaf eaters that do all the other jobs. And you don't know how many you have employed? Do you think it's, if you have 20,446 authorized, do you think it's 18,000?
Senator, I know that the number is 88% of those funded positions.
No, that's your total positions.
Yes.
Do you think it's closer to 8,000 or 18,000 correctional officers?
I think it's closer to 18,000, but we can get that number and get back to you.
Kind of right in the middle, maybe a little on the verging towards 8,000. It's 12,731, which say 60% that you had authorized for last year and this year. Yet you're boasting of an 88% total employment rate. And then you're complaining that you don't have enough officers to meet the 90% requirement that we mandated, that President Biden signed into law. It sounds to me like you need to spend a lot more time and money focused on hiring the people who are performing your organization's chief responsibility and less support personnel. Why is your organization at 88% total, but your core job only at 60%?
So Senator, I don't know what that number is, so I'm not going to say on the record that it's 60%, but we'll get that number and get back to you. But I will tell you all of the majority of our recruitment efforts over the last year has been for those correctional officers.
But you're not meeting it. You're at 88% for overall employees, which includes all those leaf eaters I mentioned. You're at barely 60% for your meat eaters, the people who are doing the main mission of your job. It seems, my time's up here, but it seems to me like the BOP needs to do a much better job recruiting and hiring corrections officers, since that is what you actually do is corrections, and much less time hiring all these other support personnel and headquarters personnel. I look forward to seeing you in Forest City.